when you come into the sales process right now, what are all of the biggest problems that you have? And feel free to tell me like, your deepest, darkest secrets. Like what do you find really, really hard around like sales and setting?
Yeah, so I find that whenever my appointment setter is like trying to get book calls, we get stuck in the pitch. So we'll pitch, we're trying to schedule a time, and it's kind of where we lose people a lot of the times. But we're able to get all the way down the funnel. It's just that usually when it gets to that part, it's like we gotta do a lot of follow-up, then we sound kind of needy.
Okay.
And yeah, I just don't like it.
Yeah, okay, so we'll nail that out. That's completely fine. So these are all like problems. Okay, easy. And also one thing I'll say as well is like, you got to remember, guys, we're selling the call here. If this brings down the barrier, it's like you're not selling anything. You're not even selling a product. You're actually selling a call. And when you change the kind of psychology around that, whether it's a DM funnel or a webinar funnel, it's like, my God, like we're just trying to have a call with someone. So I tried to kind of break down like what actually is the logic. So anyone else want to come off mute? And I'll check the chat as well simultaneously. Yeah, you either write stuff in if you want to or just come off. Or Megan, I'm going to...
I guess for me, it's feeling a little bit too salesy.
Okay. So I do a lot of these workshops, would you believe, and that's always what comes up. Now, what's ironic here is I actually recorded a YouTube video on this, being like, why you actually feel like salesy. And just give you a short answer on this is like, this is all a mindset thing, guys, because the way I like to reframe this, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to hold back, I'm going to come back to this, but let's keep going for now. I'm going to go into philosophy in a second. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
There are times where I feel like when I'm having conversations with some of these people, like it just feels so mind-numbingly repetitive that sometimes I don't feel present in the conversation.
Okay, you do, right? Like you feel like that it's like that you're doing the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
How many DMs, like how many conversations or DMs would you do a day?
I would do collectively like 10 a day.
Okay. Look, yeah. I would almost reframe this and say if it is repeatable and if it's a repetition, that's almost like a good thing. Like, I've been doing this for like 6 years, right? And it's always the same shit. It's like I have an offer problem, I have a setting problem. Like it should be bucketed, basically. Like there should be specific buckets. Now I'm not too sure where your business is, but this gives me a lot of hope, to be honest, that it's actually easy to scale. Because if it's the same thing over and over again, you can just do it at scale. Does that make sense? Not necessarily you, but maybe there's a sales rep here, long term, that could come in. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but we can discuss it. Okay, give me two more. Two more points. Come on.
I have another one. When someone like has ghosted me or like I want to restart the conversation, kind of like how to get back to it.
Yeah. So what's nice here is like looking at things like assets. Like what are the assets that we can produce, whether it's YouTube videos, lead magnets, how do we open things up and like don't sound like a nerd effectively doing it and kind of going back to these people. And the last step from there?
We struggle with finding their pain point, like really figuring out what to keep talking about with them. Okay,
so we were going to go all day with this. Our like methodology that we teach is actually a B2B SaaS sales methodology, and it's actually based on this one line, which is if there's no problem, there's no business. So unless we have a specific problem, there's literally no point having this conversation. So the first thing we should be doing is actually looking for getting intrigue with the prospect. Like how do we actually connect with them? Bear in mind, this is cold outreach as well. How do we like trigger them with intrigue, find the problem, and then make it interesting for them, because it's all about them, right? To have the conversation with you. And because you guys are creating content, it's actually like business on easy mode. I would actually suggest that a lot of your content, not all of your content, of course, so that's why you're with Megan, but if a lot of your content is about alleviating pain points, and if someone comes into your world and they're like, hey, Haley, I love what you do. I really like these posts and so on and so forth. I'd push it back on them and be like, oh, like what in particular was it that you really enjoyed about it? Oh, like I struggle with ABC, and then we can latch on to those specific problems. Because if you think about it, this is really, really interesting, is like, so do you mind if I ask you what your offer is? nutrition.
Sorry. Yes, we have a high ticket offer. We work with women who want to get stronger in the gym, who
Awesome.
have injuries. So we have a high ticket offer that is one-on-one coaching, personalized programming,
Yep.
nutrition, weekly check-ins, calls, and then we have a mid-ticket offer as well.
And the problem that you solve is women that had injuries and they want to get back training. Is that correct?
Injuries, and yeah, mostly injuries. Are afraid to get hurt. They're power lifters. They've
Yep.
been burned by a lot of like bodybuilding specific type programs that just have them
Okay.
moving in the sagittal plane. So we have them moving in all planes of motion and building a healthier body while they get stronger.
Awesome. So this should be very easy to identify, right? Because if they're coming into your
Yeah.
world, they should be almost sick of, like, you have an enemy, right? So in your content or in your sales process, the enemy is like the bodybuilding bros. The enemy, I'm your enemy, right? It's like the enemy
Yeah.
is like his enemy is like these guys can't even cross their arms at the best of times, and it's like, do you relate to that? Yes, because I got into fitness for that specific reason. Now I'm a bit disgruntled with the process. E.g., here is a new opportunity, which is more like functional or whatnot. And then it's just like we want to obviously explore what is it you don't like about that problem, about that old life. Hey, it got me injured, sore, bad relationship with food, You know, like this. We're just trying to attach ourselves to one specific problem. So if you don't mind, I'd actually like to just double tap on this super simple, super quickly, which is you probably help people with a bunch of shit. Ideally, probably training, nutrition, and recovery at the high level. But if someone comes into your world and they say, hey, Haley, I've had this like really bad relationship with food because of bodybuilding, you just hold on to that. Because I know that you're going to help them with recovery and training as well, but that's not their actual problem. Now, it's like the opportunity for them to solve in due course. Because you have to remember that every single problem has an associated process to solve. So if I have 5 different problems, I have 5 different processes. So if I have an accounting issue, I got to go get an accountant. If I have a legal issue, I got to go get a lawyer. If I have a business issue, I got to go get a business coach. And it's like, they might all be important things, but I can only help them with the business. So we need to make sure that we're solving a very specific problem, and we're almost narrowing that down with the prospect. So what I kind of famously say is like, I'm kind of like me in my company, I'm most known for the sales side. So a lot of people will come into my world for sales without knowing that half of the shit we do is like the product and the marketing and their ads and so on. But I'll actually almost keep that away. Because if I said that to you, Haley, that like on top of learning DM setting, I also got to teach you a VSL funnel and create ads, you'd probably have a mental breakdown. But if I said we're just going to focus on the DM setting, every single problem has an associated process, and then we narrow that down. And that's what we're trying to find in chat. That's the kind of idea here. So sounds all good right now so far at this point? Okay, so just to make this a little bit kind of actionable for you guys as well, one thing that, and I'm going to kind of go through the whole sales process, fuck it, it's fine. But one thing I want to say is like, you guys don't actually need to pitch in chat or almost like over-engineer the process. This is actually the best part, right? We can almost break it down to make it a lot more simpler. So I'll walk you through like the full sales process initially, and then what's going to be contained in the chat, and then what's going to be contained in the sales calls specifically, okay? So some of the big problems we have, which we're going to address today, is pitching a call, so making the transition, otherwise known as a transition, coming across like salesy, like schemey, like kind of like Better Call Saul vibes, repetition, right? So getting kind of bored in the chat, and then how do we go back and engage with leads, which is important, and then finding out the problem.